What's happening, everyone? The football therapist here, back to talk some mid-round running backs. I love the target in 2021 fantasy football. Let's hit that intro. So when we're talking running backs, a lot of times I like to preach you got to get your running backs early. I mean, there's an elite tier in the first round that, of course, most of the times you're going to draft. There's a lot of really good volume guys in the second round and third round with some high potential. But once you get into the fourth round and on, it starts getting really thin. One guy, though, I love to target in the fourth round is Myles Gaskin. I mean, to me, he's being slept on a little bit. Right now, his ADP is at RB25 in the fourth round, and this guy was putting up 16.4 points per game last year, which was 10th amongst running backs. Now, yes, he did get a little banged up. He only played in 10 games, but for what he did in those 10 games, I was super impressed, and I think that he could be a potential RB1 next year if all things go well in Miami. I mean, last season, in 8 out of those 10 games, he was at least an RB2. He was super consistent. He was getting red zone touches. He had 13 of them last year. He had 41 receptions, which was 15th, and he had 4 per game. So, I mean, he was really being utilized like a workhorse back, especially mid-year and down the stretch. I think that going into 2021, he could be utilized a lot more. And if he could stay healthy, like I said, I think he has RB1 potential. I mean, they didn't draft anyone. They brought in Malcolm Brown, which to me, that can really, impact the short goal work and the goal line potentially. But I still think Myles Gaskin will get a ton of touches and potentially be a league winner in that fourth round. Another guy who I really like that you could get a little bit later is James Conner. Now, James Conner is being drafted as the RB35 going in the 7th to 8th round. Now, yes, he didn't have the year that a lot of people expected this season. He's kind of had injuries pile up over the last 2 years, but he still was really good when he was on the field. I mean, with the Steelers, they had the poor offensive line. They had a really high passing volume. And yes, the running backs did struggle. But James Conner averaged 12.7 points per game, which was 25th. And he had 8 games as an RB2 or better. So, I mean, for at least half of the year, he was serviceable as a fantasy football option. And he's being drafted now as an RB3 or sometimes later, even an RB4 on your squad, which is awesome considering, in Arizona, they have a more high-octane offense, improved O-line, and there's a lot of touches that were vacated with Kenyon Drake leaving. So there were 16.5 touches vacated, which was 63% of those touches. And of course, Chase Edmonds could get a little bit of a boost, but we haven't seen Edmonds be used a lot during the early down work and get a lot of rush attempts. I mean, I talked a lot about it on an Instagram post that he only averages about 3 to 4 rush attempts per game. Most of that is going to be going to James Conner. I think a lot of the goal line work will be going to James Conner. You can have a really good touchdown upside. And although, I don't think he's that, top 12 to 15 material, I think that he could finish as a low-end RB2, which is what you want from your RB3/4 that you're drafting in redraft league. Here are some other guys I often consider depending on my team construction and whether or not the ADP is right and the draft is falling my way. Mike Davis, strictly ADP driven for me. I mean, he's going to have the opportunity for vacated touches, most vacated touches in Atlanta with 21.5 for running backs. So the volume will be there, but can he produce in an offense that hasn't shown an ability to produce high efficiency at the running back position and be a more pass heavy offense? That's going to be one of my question marks, along with the ADP. If he starts rising too much, he may be a fade for me for other players. Travis Etienne, I mean, he's strictly a PPR guy to me. I think James Robinson still is going to get a lot of early down work. I think Etienne will be used a lot more in the passing game, which could be good. But again, that really, brings into question how high could his ceiling be if he's only going to be utilized on third down. But we'll see. I don't really know what Urban Meyer is doing there in Jacksonville. Javonte Williams, another guy I'm really high on, but yet we got to see what his role ends up being. Melvin Gordon is still there. Perhaps we see a 50-50 split. I know they were very high on Javonte Williams as a 3-down back, and I think that he's the future at the running back position for the Denver Broncos. But of course, what is his role going to be? They still have questions at quarterback, which could limit the offense. So to me, he's someone that I'm looking to target in some leagues, not all of them. Then lastly, A.J. Dillon, a guy you could get a little bit later. A lot of vacated touches there as well due to Jamal Williams leaving. He could get around 10 to 15 touches per game. Of course, the quarterback situation with Aaron Rodgers is a huge question mark. But again, at a discount, I think that A.J. Dillon could be a really good flex play for most weeks, depending on the volume that he gets. But again, with a lot of these mid-round guys, there's a lot of question marks for a lot of these players, which is why, like I say, draft your running backs early. If you need to find a guy in these mid-rounds, look for the value, and then potentially, throw some late flyer guys that we'll discuss in upcoming videos as well. Again, if you guys liked the video, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and we'll talk soon.